The Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible in part by Lynette's Shrimp House, located in Highland Park. It's Metro Detroit's premier destination, serving juicy fried shrimp, fish, and wings, alongside soul food sides and new additions to the menu like turkey tacos and desserts. Located at 13548 Woodward in Highland Park, just north of the Davidson, Lynette's is open for takeaway, noon to 8 Tuesday and Thursday, noon to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and noon to 5 p.m. on Sunday. Call now, get some Lynette's. Hello, everybody. Greetings. Welcome. It is Friday. This is the Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit. And since it is Friday, it means it's time for another version of everybody's fun game, The Week That Was on Deadline Detroit. Thank you very much for being with us today. I would like to welcome my panel here. Allan Lengel, who is the editor and co-founder of Deadline Detroit, is with us once again, sir. Hello.
Hello. Good
also,
Friday.
Nancy Derringer of Deadline Detroit back once again.
Always great.
And two, well, I'm not sure about that, but I appreciate the fact that you're here every week. We also have with us again, Todd Perkins, a local attorney, wonderful guy. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And my friend Nancy Kaffer of the Editorial Board at the Detroit Free Press. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Craig.
Oh, we can't hear you, Nancy. We're going to have to get that worked up here for just a second, because we've been having headphone issues this morning, everybody. And again, we're in a Zoom world. This is just the way things are for a little bit longer. We'll talk masks in just a little bit, but I want to start local today because there's some big political news brewing here in Michigan. Chief James Craig of the Detroit Police Department announces his resignation, hints at a political future, which may include a run for governor here in the state as a Republican. I personally think he's angling for a permanent spot on Fox News, but what do I know? Either way, James Craig getting into the race changes the dynamic a little bit. Allan, you had a story up. Oh, by the way, real quick, Nancy Kaffer has not one, but two excellent columns in the Detroit Free Press looking at this. So make sure you go to your Free, take a look there. But Allan, we had some poll data on Deadline today. And it's a little bit closer, I think, than Gretchen Whitmer probably likes.
Right. But it's interesting. It's so early on. And the pollster says, people really don't know what Chief Craig stands for. So he gets a free pass on a lot of stuff. I mean, nobody's attacking him from one side or so far. And I mean, really, more miraculously, he kills her in the poll on economics and jobs by like 63%, 37% or something. And part of that is nobody knows what he stands for. People are frustrated with the economy right now with COVID. Things will improve, supposedly. But for right now, Chief Craig is sort of magical. Is that, to be that close just right out of the gate is interesting. But like I say, nobody knows what he stands for.
He is a unicorn at the moment, at least, yes. Because I think he's a fictional creature.
No, he's not a unicorn. He's fired. So here's my theory. Duggan cannot fire a black chief of police. He just can't. As a white man, I don't believe that he feels comfortable doing that. So like Coleman Young, like all big mayors and really strong mayors, they let people, and Duggan, I believe in the same tradition, is the type of person, I'm not going to fire you, but I'm going to let you resign gracefully. So he resigns to the issue. It's my belief that after Chief Craig does a focus group, he's going to come back 6 months later or a year later before that campaign gets up and running and says, I'm not going to do it. But it gives him an out and everybody leaves, because I think that they have the scourge of what happened last summer on their face with those cases that just got dismissed. Duggan does not like to lose. And I think that he, to cast the blame over in that direction, that's what this is all about. That's just my belief. I don't have any basis for saying that other than just the knowledge that I've had in seeing politics and how it plays out in the city of Detroit. I just think that, and so firing a guy like that, even if he hired another black chief of police, I don't think he would feel comfortable doing that. And so he gives him an out. He goes and says, I'm going to run on a Republican ticket. Who's going to be his competition? John James? Okay. Well, that's another two-time loser. But at the end of the day, hey, that's what it is. You know what I mean? I do not like this pandering by black people to go over to the Republican Party because you'll be a unicorn over there, rather than, run in your pack. Because here's to say, okay, this guy's been, what I think about the Republican Party now is something different than what I would have thought in the 90s or even in the early 2000s. We thought Cheney was bad. Now, look, Cheney's daughter is going to save the Republican Party. You know what I mean? So, what's up is down and down is up.
Well, we'll get to that part in just a little bit because it's a legitimate conversation.
It is so much going on in my mind, but
Go ahead, Cap.
I did think it was kind of interesting that at the press conference, one of the first things he said was, "By the way, I didn't get fired." I said that is kind of interesting. But I have
Resigned, fired.
I've covered city governments for a long time, and normally, if a mayor doesn't like what their police chief is doing, they may not chastise them publicly or call them out publicly, but they normally handle it behind the scenes. And so, given the way that Craig policed the protests, and I started asking them for interviews about this last summer, and that's not been something they've been able to provide, they declined.
I was going to say they're able to do it. They chose not to.
Yes, they've been willing to provide. But given that the chief's sort of posture regarding the protests had not changed, I think we can only assume that the mayor was fine with what he was doing. And if the mayor wasn't, I think it's kind of incumbent on him to share that. Because like I said, in my experience, you may not get a public call out, but behind the scenes, there's a course correction if a mayor and his appointees aren't aligned. And it normally doesn't go on for a year. So I don't know. I think it's a serious campaign and he's a serious candidate. I don't think it's a
I think his ego.
Lengel, then Perkins.
All right. I think he wanted to run. I think they set him up originally as deputy mayor with the thought that Duggan wasn't going to run again, that he would slip in as mayor, and then that closed up. I think the Democrat governor is running for re-election, and he wants to be the boss. He wants to be a political boss somewhere, and he doesn't want to run for Congress. He's going to be one of 435 members of Congress. Even if he ran for Senate, which he wouldn't win, that would be 100 people. So he likes the idea of being the boss. I think he has a lot of political ambitions. He's got a huge ego. He loves the camera. He loves Fox News. And, I think one of the things is going to be, Trump has heaped on praise like last September, is saying he's a great guy. He's kept the city from burning and all that kind of stuff. So he's going to have some tough roads to travel through the Republican Party, but he wants to be the politician. I think initially Duggan, for a long time, him and Duggan got along. I think there's some questions about, the crime stats and the liability that might create for Duggan, but I don't think it was enough for Duggan to want to push him out.
Well, that relationship has never been a really easy one. And I mean, Chief Craig has gone out and said some things in the past that I know made the mayor uncomfortable when he's talking about arming Detroiters and things like that. That's not what the mayor was looking to hear at the time when we've had violent crime, frankly, spiking in the city for the last couple of years. It's not been a good thing. And the track record there when it comes to fighting crime is not all that great. The biggest accomplishment I would suggest that Detroit's had is figuring out a new labor contract for the people that work there. It has not necessarily been in the prevention of crime. That has not happened.
And I don't believe that that's necessarily the fault of Chief Craig or former Chief Craig. He's resigning or retiring on June 1st, or Mayor Duggan. I just think that those are some other things that there's a different type of policing that needs to take place of community policing. But let me go back to what Nancy was saying, what Kaffer was saying. See, what also I think that the media, and I speak to you all because you all will do the real drudging, because I'm a guy that can come on this show and say a bunch of things, and you guys got to go do the research behind it and make the stories. So, look at what happened recently, though, Nancy, is that those cases got thrown up in their face. Judge Larry Williams just recently, within the past month, maybe month and a half, dismissed all of those cases. And he wrote a great opinion, or he gave a great opinion, and I don't even believe it was appealed. So, that is the ultimate, that's the crescendo right there. Mm-hmm. And so it may have happened last summer, but it didn't come full, and
Sure, I see what you're saying. If
Douglas is a lawyer, he's a lawyer first. So he's not going to like the fact that legally he lost. And now he's dealing with the umpteen number of lawsuits that Lawrence Garcia is going to have to defend, who's his city attorney. They're busy doing all kinds of other things because I'm suing them for all these police misconduct cases. But at the end of the day, they're very busy over there. So someone's got to take the fall. And if it's Chief, I don't necessarily think it was necessarily, because the way Duggan does, he's a micromanager. What Chief Craig was doing last summer, I believe, was coordinated not only through the mayor's office, but through the city attorney's office and the police department. Chief Craig just had to take the fall for it. So now, but to Allan's point, I agree with him in some way. He wants to be a chief. Here's the thing, but he's never been elected. And so he's not going to get elected to the 435, let alone the one or two, the one person of governor. And he damn sure is not going to be a senator.
There's two questions that I would ask him if he would deign to come on this program and be interviewed by me, which I don't think he will anytime soon. But the first one is, how do you feel about voter suppression efforts undergone by your party, your Republican Party? And two, what about the white supremacists in the party? What and Trump and Trumpism? Is this something you support? Is this something you can support? And how can you, in good conscience, be in support of the big lie? Because that's a question he has to answer.
But the thing is that those things that would be a huge disadvantage if he were running as a Democrat and trying to win votes in the city of Detroit are actually bonuses if he's running as a Republican and trying to win votes in a Republican primary. Now, how does that work in a Republican general election where your task is to win back suburban voters, especially suburban women who have voted Democrat in 18 and 20? That's a different question. But if you're trying to turn out voters outstate in Macomb County to get through a primary, then all of that stuff is not a problem for him in the way that, again, it would be if he were a Democrat or trying to win serious votes in Detroit, which you heard it here first, will not happen.
Well, he should go ask Judge Lucas about what it's like to become a black guy who wants to run and join the Republican Party. I have a problem with him being the chief of police of Detroit and joining the Republican Party based upon how the Republican Party has conducted itself over the past couple of years with those questions that Craig just brought up.
I have to say, it's
white supremacists. I mean, they support, not only they embrace this, but they support it in some factions. I'm not gonna mention her name because she's gonna make me want to join her party. But nonetheless, we'll get to her later.
It's coming soon. I promise. I
got it. I'm not gonna say anything else.
No, but that's one of those things that I just struggle with, this notion of anybody supporting what's going on in the Republican Party right now. But the notion of Chief Craig, a guy who served in the city of Detroit, this is somebody that understands the struggles people are going through in the community. He should anyway. And to sit there and say, you know what, I'm okay with them trying to make it more difficult to vote. I'm okay with them cozying up to these people that somehow think that your rights don't matter. That's a question that he's going to have to answer.
But he's not trying to win votes from people whose votes were suppressed in the city of Detroit. He's going to be trying to win votes from people who believe that Detroiters stole the election and need to be clamped down on. I mean, this is a different.
It's interesting.
Can I point something out?
Please. Yes.
Nancy,
I've been.
I thought
Nancy
the most interesting bullet point in that poll story, male voters preferred Craig to Whitmer by a 48 to 44% margin. Female voters preferred Whitmer 51 to 37%.
By the way, that's Chief Craig, not me. I'm not running.
Another interesting thing in that poll is that John James edged out Craig among voters overall.
He's a loser. I mean,
But Craig edged out John James when it came to black voters.
Didn't that poll also show that, like, even though most people didn't know who Chief Craig was, so how do you interpret those results?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, he's an unknown quantity. He makes the Republicans get all tingly because, oh my God, a black conservative in Michigan. We're going to win the city of Detroit. We're going to win the governorship.
Rainbow sparkle unicorn.
Nancy, to your point about the split between male and female voters, I've talked to Republicans enough when I've asked them, what is the problem Chief Craig can credibly promise to solve for Michiganders as a gubernatorial candidate? Or what is the thing they've said leadership. I've heard the word leadership enough to feel like maybe it's a talking point. So, but and to me, I have to say there's like a lot of, it's too early. The man hasn't launched a campaign yet. We don't know if that's a quality he's going to be campaigning on. But there's a lot of, we live in a very misogynistic culture. And that's
exactly what I was going to say before I was interrupted by Allan Lengel, which is that the gender gap in this is absolutely a reflection of Gretchen Whitmer being female. I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
I know it in my bones. And when they talk about leadership, what have they been bitching about at top volume for the last year is that Whitmer is, too heavy-handed and she's too this. What else is that but leadership? I mean, you may not like it.
Nancy, you don't understand. Leadership from a woman is a dangerous subversion of the natural order. Leadership from a man is good.
It's like I've done some employment cases when you have an efficient managing woman. You know what they call her? They call her the B word, right?
Yeah, right.
And they call the man, oh, he's a good guy. You know what I'm saying? And I want to go have a beer with him and suck up to him. But they don't do that for the women. But at the end of the day,
double standards everywhere.
No question about it. I think that his vote of confidence is just really, they're not happy with Whitmer and her strong position that she's taken. But I'm doubling down on her. I'm doubling down on, so that's not the issue. She's going to win. I'm going to do everything I can do to win. But
don't underestimate it.
People are frustrated with the economy right now because of the pandemic. It's loosening up. Things are going to get better. The Republicans have blamed her for restaurant closings and restrictions everywhere, where she's, I think, just acted responsible.
Yeah.
But I think things are going to change, and
Did you guys see the push alert that just came through?
No.
Michigan lifts mask requirement for fully vaccinated people.
Hey, there we go. Maybe we can do this in my backyard next week. Seriously,
Allan,
I'm thinking about it.
Allan said things are going to change. He was a prophet. It literally just happened.
All right,
but
Moses up here.
About Craig, though. Here's what I have a problem with Craig. This is a guy that I hang out with. I mean, he comes to my parties. We drink. I don't drink, but he drinks a little bit, not much. But he comes and hangs out, and I'm like, I didn't know that I was having. I mean, there was a ghost within him that was, really that had to take. I don't know what to say to the guy. I haven't even reached out to him. I'm at a loss.
This is
I want to know why I'm not invited to those parties. Go ahead.
This is one of the things that when you're trying to talk to people who aren't from Detroit or people like Lansing people about this, it's like the mere act of standing up in a podium as a Detroiter and saying I'm a Republican. It's like we don't have a left-right political spectrum here. We have moderate mainstream Democrat to Karl Marx would blush. I mean, like that's our political spectrum here. Right. And so just the transgressive act of saying you're a Republican and you've been city official all this time, it's got a lot of people like, I mean, as the kids say, shook, right?
Speaking of Karl Marx,
are you shook?
It reminds me of a story.
Today, that's a different thing than a Republican in the 90s. These guys are fascists.
Well, let's talk about that for just a second.
Quick story.
A real quick
story. A friend of mine was engaged to a woman. They'd been going out for a long time, and they were getting stoned one night. And in the middle of the night, he woke up and shook her and said, "Wait a minute, I forgot to ask. Are you a Democrat or a Republican?" She said she was a Democrat. So, anyways, people don't always show their hand.
So they argued happily ever after.
Yeah, they've been married a long time now.
Man, I think the days where people don't show their hands are over too, though, man. I don't think you could probably talk to someone for more than about 10 minutes with having a clear idea of what their deal was.
Nowadays, all right. You just throw out the word Trump and see where it goes.
Let's move on to what is going on in the Republican Party for just a second, because we saw Liz Cheney get broomed from her leadership position this week. And a lot of people are sitting there saying there's a war within the Republican Party. And I'm here to tell you the war is over. The purge has begun. Basically, what you've got now is the guillotine out there and the French people out there just lopping the heads off the aristocrats. That's what's going on in the Republican Party right now. It'll settle into something weird pretty soon, but we've got one guy, Trump, who's trying to be Napoleon and all this kind of thing and take over from the wreckage that he's creating here. Forgive my historical analogy, but anyway, that's what's going on right now. Kevin McCarthy on the same day, Kevin McCarthy, who of course is the minority leader in the House, comes out and says, there's nobody talking about whether or not the election was stolen. That's not going. No, we just met with the president today. And 5 minutes later, he's on Fox News saying, well, clearly the election was stolen on the same day. One of these things, I'm like, you're on tape both times. Which one is it? What are you doing here?
You're not accountable to anyone.
The purge in the Republican Party has been going on for years and years now. I mean, they've gotten rid of anyone who is not conservative. I mean, a lot of people have left the party early on, not just in these last few years, but it's been going on. I mean, now we look at, the moderates as being Susan Collins and Murkowski and Romney. Those are the moderate to almost left wingers in the party, and they're going to get rid of them. And Cheney, who voted 93% of the time along with Trump, is now being purged. Now it's like a refined purge.
I mean, Mike Shirkey was reprimanded or censured or whatever you call it by the Hillsdale County Republicans for being too soft on the governor.
Yes.
Didn't somebody call him a rhino as part of that process? I mean, this is a funhouse mirror of political something.
Well, it is. And here's the thing about it that pisses me off the most. You have basically Kevin McCarthy out there trying to say nobody's talking about whether or not the election was stolen. And now the great whitewash of the attack on the Capitol has begun. Who's the dude from Georgia? I'm forgetting his name, but he basically said, hey, if you were watching the tape, you would have thought it was just another group of tourists in the Capitol on January 6th.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, there is no way. There is no way that I'm going to sit here and just accept this notion that they're like, these were good people. They were just out there having a good time, taking some pictures and some videos with the kids. This is not acceptable. And I'm sorry, but you cannot just sit there and try to pretend that this didn't happen. But they're bold enough and ballsy enough to actually try it. And it pisses me off.
That's the liberal wing.
And they're going to do it. So.
That's the liberal wing of the party that's being very open about, there are some good Nazis that were marching down in Virginia. There's some good people in the Capitol who were smashing cops and, so they're expanding. They're being more understanding.
Just another group of tourists.
Well,
kind and compassionate.
It's like a George Orwell's 1984, how they try to misinform. And if you continue to play this banter, that people will start to believe it. And, so what if he says on one channel or one moment in time, he says, no, we're not trying to say it was the election was stolen. And then he goes and says it again. They're playing to an audience. They're almost like comedians to me. Like I'm going to say this joke to this audience, and I'm going to say this joke later on, maybe to the same audience. They've just been drinking a little bit more and they're easier to make laugh, And so, it's buffoonish. The rest of the world looks at us and, they look at us as clowns, and that's what irritates me. I like the fact that we have a 2-party system. We might even need a 3-party system. But at the same time, I like the difference because I don't get it all the way right. But I'm open-minded enough to say, look, I can understand that there's some aspect of some conservatism that we need in this world, and we just can't do everything from a leftist perspective. Even though I'm a Democrat, I'm not a leftist. But at the same time, this stuff over here, we're outside of the political spectrum that is normal. You know what I'm saying? With the leadership of the Republican Party, we're outside of that right side. I mean, we're over here into that red zone, almost like when they say, are we close to, back in 1961, or was that the Cuban Missile Crisis when the atomic clock was so close to, that's what I feel like as far as the Republican Party. And it's going to take it to be blown up in order to make it right.
Well, blown up. Okay, there is the possibility of this group of 100 former legislators and some current who say they are thinking about forming a third party. I don't think it has much chance of success in any way, shape, or form. But, you do have people like Liz Cheney saying that she's going to do everything in her power to make sure Donald Trump doesn't come anywhere near leadership again. Do they play a role? Do they play an important role if they indeed try to get this going, or is this just a sideshow?
We live in a 2-party system world, and a lot of people have tried to start third parties, and it's never really worked out. I mean, I'm with you, Craig. I don't see that amounting to a lot. Does it play a role? Sure. But does it play a significant role? I mean,
I don't know.
No,
it's hard.
It may if indictments start rolling in some capacity.
That's where it is. So as soon as this kid, this pedophile freak out of Florida, what's his,
he's in trouble, by the way.
Something, he needs his hands tied behind his back and crabs in his ass so bad he can't even scratch him. And he just, that guy is, and sent to hell at the same time, and so, and his partner is bringing him down.
Well, Todd, I was going to ask you that though. I mean, his basically partner in crime, yes, his wingman has made a deal. And if you were Matt Gaetz's defense attorney right now, what would you be telling him?
Well, as a lawyer, I would tell him to shut up.
Because he's the bigger fish.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, I would tell him to be quiet. Because, it's almost like I said it before, if you don't talk, you just might walk. But he said enough already that they don't need anything more. And this guy's the guy who's right there with them, if you're going to do something wrong, do it by yourself. This is going to be and remember his lawyer. I like that guy's lawyer. I can't remember the guy's name. Was it Greenberg or?
Well, that's the guy, but
yeah,
yeah.
Greenberg. But his lawyer, he stood out in front of court after Greenberg went to court one day, and he said, if I was Matt Gaetz, I'd be kind of nervous right now. That was about a month ago. And then, and it takes these kind of intricate deals. It takes a while to get the cooperation agreement together and everything like that, so that he understands what he's going to do, his responsibility, and so it doesn't blow up on you like the deal. What's the guy who was going to cooperate, wound up going to trial, and then Trump let him out?
Who, Stone?
No, not Stone. The other guy was
Flynn, Michael Flynn?
Huh?
Flynn?
No, Manafort.
We've got a whole to choose from.
Right.
Yeah, Manafort. Remember, he went and pretended like he was going to cooperate, and it kind of blew up on them, And what happened? He wound up getting 7 years. He wound up doing about 9 months, and then he got compassionate released, and he's at home. So that when the indictments start to fall, and they're coming. Something. Hey, call me, something, maybe I'm with the women's movement today, but something, it's the women that are carrying us through this thing, because that lady out in New York, that attorney general who kicked the NRA's ass this week, she is going to get Trump. If no one else gets Trump, I trust that she will, because, all his businesses are there, most people who get convicted, even Al Capone, what did he get convicted of? Something to do with finances, his taxes.
Right.
So, that's the way that they're going to get him. So,
but then the problem is he's got, when he said he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue or whatever, and then Sixth Avenue was some avenue, and that no one would care. People who really like him, or he could get indicted for anything. He could stand there and say he did it, and his true adherents are going to either not believe it or not care. So how significant is that super diehard pro-Trump faction? We're going to find out.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's put it to the test. I'm willing to put mine up. Let's put mine up. You put yours up.
I mean, but
he says he's going to restart his rallies.
Oh,
he's going to restart his rallies soon. They're getting some, and I predict that by the end of the year, those things are going to be playing to half-empty venues. They're going to be, he's got one note. He gets up there and he talks about himself for 90 minutes, and people wave, all this shit in there. It's just not. I think by the end of the year, he's going to look like a tired, boring old man. I mean, have you seen these photos that are winding up?
So he's going to look like Joe Biden. Is that what you're saying?
Nancy's an optimist. I never knew this about you, Nancy.
He's these pictures that are coming out of Mar-a-Lago where he's like posing with prom couples and just married couples. He looks like some guy that just wandered into the
it's almost like he's on house arrest too. It's like he doesn't dare leave that place.
I had this idea. It was brilliant. I still think it's brilliant. I still think we can do it. Tell him he's still president, but they just moved the capital to Mar-a-Lago, and let him have press conferences. Let him issue things on his. Tell him they changed the letterhead, and just let him.
The Sunset Boulevard.
Remember Lynnwood? Yeah. Everybody remembers Lynnwood.
Yeah,
I know Lynnwood. I used to deal with him when I was at the Washington Post.
Lynnwood gave a speech a couple of days ago to some group of Trumpians, and basically said that, hey, Joe Biden's not really the president. He said Donald Trump actually still has the nuclear codes, and the military is going to come to him when the shit hits the fan. So don't worry, he's still the president. Joe Biden is not the president. He's just in the office. And there's people in there lapping it up. They're like, so when does this become public? And why aren't we doing anything? He's like, be patient. It's all happening. And these people in the audience just ate it up. They're like, I'm so happy. And I'm thinking to myself, you're not happy. You're stupid.
But
I have a quick Lynn,
and maybe just ignorance is bliss. I'm not sure, because it's just ridiculous.
I have a quick Lynnwood story. He used to represent Gary Condit in civil cases, with the Chandra Levy case. And so I was dealing with him. And so fast forward to a few months ago when he was involved in the whole Georgia election and stirring up all this crazy stuff. I wrote him about 12:30 at night. I emailed him and I said, God, you used to be such a gentleman, such a intelligent guy, blah, blah, blah. I said, what's happened here? And he just said, oh, you'll see. We've got evidence. He goes, but thank you.
Of course they have no evidence.
Well, see what a lot of people have to remember, And it's really our parents that would tell us the story. They're going to be people jumping out of the window like Orson Welles. Remember Orson Welles doing that show that the aliens were coming or something like that, and people truly believed it. This is the time that But I think it's just like Nancy said. He's going to be playing to one people. He's going to have those stadiums that are half empty, and the momentum is going to be. It's going to take hold, and it's going to be like a rock rolling down a hill. It's just going to gain momentum against him because this is some tired old stuff, though, man. It's just an old man who's angry, and there's absolutely no reason why you should be angry because you've been screwing people over for years.
Every Republican in my social networks that I see is wringing their hands. They believe the world is falling to pieces.
Yes.
There's the borders are open, gas prices are going up, blah blah blah. And yet I look around me and it's kind of like, hey, no more masks.
Well, let's talk about masks for just a second because there's a couple of fun things going on here. But the CDC yesterday says, hey, if you're fully vaccinated, you pretty much don't need to wear a mask anymore. I still will keep one on my person because different businesses are going to have different rules for a little while. Sure. And I'm totally cool with that. Now, here's the funny part. I actually was reading on one of these QAnon sites the other day, one of these groups, where there's a new conspiracy theory out there.
Read magazines.
I've got this window into how Craig spends his free time now that I don't know that I needed.
No, it's fun. Trust me on this one. They're now going to start wearing masks because they are concerned. The rumor is that those of us who've been vaccinated, especially by Pfizer, are shedding some sort of weird virus to them. So they need to wear masks to keep getting something from those of us that are vaccinated. And I'm thinking to myself, so now you're going to start wearing a mask to prevent a virus?
Well, this is clearly a brilliant strategy then. Why didn't we do this months ago?
At least I'll know who the hell they are, first of all. And if they want to socially distance from me, God bless them. Stay the hell away from me, you freaks.
Republican, though. I bet they're probably a Republican.
Now Joe Biden has to just issue a mandate saying no one can wear masks anymore, and then we'll see all these people wearing masks.
You bet.
No, Governor Whitmer. Let Governor Whitmer do it, and everybody on the west side of Michigan is going to be wearing masks.
Right.
I know. I'm going to come up with a company that makes red MAGA masks and sell them and see how much money I can make.
So I want to talk about this seriously for a minute, though, because Craig, I'm with you. I'm going to, if a business asks you to wear a mask, I'm going to wear one. I'm not, just like if a business says line forms to the right, I'm not going to be like, F you, I'm going to the left.
Yep. I got mine right here.
But I think that we have to start recalibrating our risks. We recalibrated our risks last year. We decided to follow the science. Everybody here did. A lot of people we know, most people in our circles, that was the right decision. It's still the right decision to follow the science. And there seems to be so much resistance to that, which is people are saying, I'm going to wait and see on this mask thing. I'm vaccinated, but no one else. I don't know if other people are, so that doesn't make me feel safe. Well, that's actually not how a vaccine works. It doesn't require other people to be vaccinated to protect you. Mm-hmm. And just there's so much resistance to kind of accepting that the risk has diminished. And it really, the two things that really confuse me are not believing that a vaccine mitigates your own personal risk. Number two, not believing that your vaccination protects you whether or not other people are vaccinated. And I don't really care if people want to wear masks and wipe down their groceries, whatever they need to do to feel safe. But my concern is that this influences public policy, namely in continuing to keep children who desperately need to be in the classroom out of school. But I think this whole dropping the mask requirement is kind of going to be an operational nightmare because for kids, because vaccines protect you whether other people are vaccinated or not. But if you have a child like me who's too young to be eligible for a vaccine, I'm probably less likely to take him out in public now than I would have been yesterday.
Well, and that's the big thing. Kids, childcare, and vaccination access. People are, we're talking about jobs and how there were fewer jobs created last month than they expected. Not everybody's rushing back to work. Companies actually talking about raising their wages. Imagine that, to get people to actually show up for work.
It's almost like how an economy works.
But then you have Joe Biden siding with the Republicans saying, well, hey, if you get offered a job, you better take it or else we're going to cut you off your benefits. That doesn't help anything here, because for a lot of people, Most of the people who have not been able to go back to work yet are women. Women who are dealing with childcare issues and kids who are not yet in school. They're not going to go back until this stuff gets solved. And so I'm thinking to myself, this isn't just people sitting on their asses, getting unemployment benefits and not going to work. That's not what this is about. There are so many different things out there. One, I don't want to go back to a shitty job if I'm not safe and I'm getting paid minimum wage or restaurant wages, which are even worse. Two, I don't have anybody to take care of my kid. Well,
no, but one thing about the mask, what Nancy was saying, I wear my mask almost like when you drive a car, you've been, and it's fog outside, you've been told to put your lights on. You put your lights on, not for your benefit, but so other people can see you. I really want to be ostensible and completely obvious about the imminent danger that face. I'm vaccinated, but I still wear my mask. And even if I'm not wearing it, sometimes I still will wear it on the side of my ear and things like that, so people can see that I'm conscientious about the mask. And when I approach people, I put my mask on. If they say they're vaccinated and we're talking for any extended period of time, I may pull it off. But I want to be very obvious in doing that because I think it's important. It's just like I said,
courtesy.
It's a courtesy.
Yeah, imagine that courtesy in a society.
Yeah, but something, we're in an era where courtesy is gone out the window.
I'm all for courtesy. I'm totally for courtesy, and like I said, business is going to still require a mask. I'm going to wear a mask. If a friend is skittish and says wear a mask, we have someone vulnerable in my family, whatever reason they have, I'll wear a mask around them. And it's very strange to feel like going back to this life that we had more than a year ago, but at the same time, we're talking about the mask stopping to be a literal thing and becoming symbolic of where we are sort of personally and politically. And that is extremely, like, I don't want to say strange in a pejorative way. It's not strange like you're weird or something. It's strange because it's a different thing and it's not what the mask was intended for. And I think it requires some thinking through. I mean, we're in a weird place.
Yeah, we certainly are, and now we just have given all the anti-maskers an excuse to never wear one. And so that's something that's happened.
I will wear mine during cold and flu season because I got to tell you, it was awesome spending the last 365 days without getting a single head cold.
Well, the weird thing about lifting the mask requirement is probably people who weren't wearing them and aren't vaccinated are going to keep not wearing them and being unvaccinated. People who, there's a lot of us, I think, in the middle who are like, all right, well, this is the guidance and we're going to keep following the science. And then there's probably the people who are going to keep wearing masks are probably the most cautious, vaccinated, most safe people. So it's like a weird inverse, It's weird.
Well, and like I said, as far as jobs and getting the economy back on track, the one thing, and Nancy, you were talking about this, is that people aren't talking about it, is childcare. Until we get the school situation fixed, the economy is not going to go back to normal. You're not going to have a whole bunch of those people returning to work. It's just not going to happen yet because there's no plan in place for what to do with those kids. There's no capacity anywhere for massive childcare of that type. It just doesn't exist.
Well, and what I'm really wondering about is, for a lot of folks who relied on small centers, small daycare centers, are those places still there? I mean, well, part of the thing is a lot of centers have been operating this whole time, like really little kids. I know really little kids who have been in daycare since early last summer. And we're not really talking about that when we talk about the risk to kids, because that's been going on. And I don't believe that it's led to huge outbreaks and spread. But, if you're someone who's very small neighborhood-based center closed down early in the pandemic, did it come back? Did they have were they able to sustain? That's a big issue. I mean, childcare was already a huge problem before the pandemic. It's really expensive. There's not enough high quality childcare. There's wild disparity between the type of daycare slash preschool that a child of a middle class professional is able to go to and one that folks who are working class or impoverished get to go to. I mean, there's just such disparity there. And now there's what was so strange about the pandemic or for jarring for middle class people who are used to having a lot of options was when they all went away. Michelle Goldberg wrote in the New York Times that for middle class parents, all of a sudden it was like experiencing what it's like to be a parent in poverty to whom government isn't responsive and doesn't necessarily care about your problems. So those disparities are just going to continue to grow. And yeah, we've got to get this. We already had a childcare problem. The pandemic drew a line under it. I don't know that that's going to put a fire under anyone to fix it.
No, possibly not. All right. We've got a little bit of time left. We still got about 20 minutes left, actually, and a lot of different things that we have not gotten to yet. I did want to put this out there, and this is something because we're talking about masks. Private companies are going to do what they want to do. Just yesterday, and I know this is big news for everybody, but the remaining members of the Grateful Dead announced their tour, which is coming up, and they're going to be playing in Clarkston.
You are bringing this particular situation up because I've heard it from 2 other people just this morning. So go ahead.
But no, if you want to go to the general admission area, like what they call the pit, right? You need to show proof of vaccination. And so I was on a bunch of message boards yesterday after the announcement of the tour dates came down, and something I was very excited about. And, people are like, well, screw this, man. I'm not going now. I'm like, well, good. That means I'm going to be able to get a ticket and sit up close.
What band is this?
This is Dead and Company, which is, Bob Weir and John Mayer and all these people.
Craig spends his free time surfing QAnon message boards, and he's trying to get in the pit at a Dead and Company show. Keep talking.
Hey, I've seen like 100 of these shows in my lifetime. So, it's a big part of my life. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that's the whole thing. And now a bunch of people are mad and they're like, well, they shouldn't be my body, my choice. I'm like, oh, so now you're pro-choice?
Yeah.
It's just,
well, in that case, your body, your choice to stay home from the show.
Well, or sit in an area where you actually have an assigned seat. Yeah, all they're doing is for the general admission where people are dancing and mingling and all that kind of stuff.
Stick around. Craig's going to give us stage diving tips.
No, it's a Dead show. Nobody stage dives. They twirl, Nancy. They twirl.
Oh, but there's a pit.
Spinners and stuff like that.
Oh, it's not a mosh pit.
It's not a mosh pit. They just call it the pit. It's the area that gets really crushed up front when everybody tries to get close to the stage.
Oh, okay.
On the main floor. And I try not to go down there because I'm too old for that crap.
I thought you were saying you were going to be in the mosh pit. And
No. This is not a Black Flag show. Yeah. But anyway, so that's just something, and we're going to see a lot more of that. And I have a feeling that
airlines and the cruise lines have already announced that they are expecting this.
And if that's a motivation for people to get vaccinated, to prove that they can do this, I love what Mike DeWine is doing in Ohio. $1 million lottery. One random person for the next 5 weeks who's been vaccinated is automatically be entered into a drawing to win $1 million freaking dollars. I think it's fabulous. They're bribing people with hamburgers to get this done. They're doing all kinds of different things to get people to get the vaccination. But Ohio, God bless Ohio. I hate that state, but at the same time, yeah, I'm not a big fan. Sorry. Anyway,
got a Buckeye here.
I love Cleveland. I do love Cleveland. Don't worry. I do like Cleveland.
You love Cleveland, but you don't love. Okay, all right.
I'm sorry, but
it's mini Detroit.
It's just many interactions with state troopers.
That's a completely reasonable reason.
And those hats those guys wear, they look like they belong in the South, not in the Midwest. Sorry.
Yeah, we have an awful state highway patrol. Go ahead.
But what does everybody think about that? Hey, a lottery. You can win $1 million just by getting a vaccination.
It's a great idea.
It is a great idea. I mean, and it's something that I know that some people are going to be upset by it because they're going to see it as like a waste of money. Why should one person get rich from this? But when you do the math, I mean, that's what policymakers do. It is still, if you can get a whole bunch of people to accept the vaccine for the chance of winning $1 million, and one of them wins it, it's long term a better spend than letting people get sick.
And I mean, that's the concept of a lottery, is that everybody spends their money and one or two people get rich.
That's right.
You can't win if you don't everybody spends their money. In this one, all you're doing is rolling.
Right. You're vaccinated. Right.
Yeah.
What I like about what he's doing is it's not coming from the budget of, their general fund budget in Ohio. He's using the COVID funds to do it. I mean, this is almost like, hey, if he goes out and pays for several different commercials, that's going to cost you a couple $1 million
exactly.
Anyway.
It's the cheapest marketing campaign I've ever seen. It's brilliant.
He gets
$5 million.
He gets earned media rather than bought media because you guys are going to be the ones reporting on him, and so he gets onto the tube. He gets on a national platform about it, and hey, I do believe it's going to some of those lottery players are going to go out and get vaccinated because of it.
Right.
And I didn't even get a lollipop. I'm starting to feel a little.
I got a sticker.
I've seen some people talking about whether it's ethical to put a financial incentive to a health decision. I think anything we can do to get more people vaccinated right now we've just got to get more shots in arms, and it's just got to happen.
And the second shot, because a lot of people, have you noticed some of those statistics? A lot of people are going in for the first shot and not going back.
Right.
So we need them to complete that, and that's the incentive that the Johnson & Johnson has, is that it's one shot. Although they've taken a lot of public.
I will leave the hand wringing over whether that constitutes exactly correct medical ethics to some other day. That, to me, it's like, what's the problem?
I mean, we make all kinds of financial, like you were talking about with public policy, there's always a cost associated. We make all kinds of financial health-based decisions all the time. Can I afford to have this procedure? Can I So if we're trying to say that I would absolutely agree that financial factors should never be a factor in your personal health decision.
Krispy Kreme.
That's not true. It doesn't work that way.
Krispy Kremes are giving out free donuts, so you get the vaccine and then you die of hardened arteries.
Diabetes, hey.
Right, from diabetes or something.
I don't think one donut's going to push over
the other. And also,
probably not.
Go happy.
They're addicting.
But they'll give you one every day, apparently.
Oh, they will?
Yeah, that was my understanding. So
my child has informed me you could be getting a donut right now. You could be getting a donut. I'm glad there's not a Krispy Kreme by our house.
Or anywhere around here, actually. So.
Well, yeah. Anyway, all right. So we've got a few minutes left. It's not yet time for Schmuck of the Week, although we could do Schmuck of the Week. I've got a few nominees here that I'm probably going to get to. Let me just make sure that I did what I want to do here. Let's go with the pipeline. I forgot about the Colonial Pipeline. I wanted to talk about that. Of course, some Russian hackers hack this company, get control of the pipeline, hold them for ransom. The company pays, I think, $5 million to these hackers. My favorite part about this whole thing is that these Russian hackers say, hey, this has nothing to do with trying to destabilize your government. We just want some money. We're just plain old extortionists here. And that's exactly what they did. And the company paid it. And now the conservatives are calling it Biden's gas crisis. And you've got people hoarding gasoline, pouring it into garbage bags because they're worried that this is going to last more than a couple of days, which, I mean, I can't think of all the stupid things that might happen there. I actually saw that one guy said he saw somebody trying to fill up a styrofoam container with gasoline, which if you've ever done that does not work. It just melts right there on the spot. It's a pretty fascinating science experiment. Wow. It'll just dissolve.
I did not know that.
So many insights into the secret life of Craig Foley.
Yeah, we did a lot of dumb stuff when we were kids just to see what would happen. We were scientists in the making. That's all. But I'm looking at the behavior. Talk about predictable human behavior. As soon as we saw that this pipeline was going to be down for a few days, you knew the hoarding would start. Jennifer Granholm comes out as the energy secretary, says, please don't hoard gasoline. What does that do? Everybody goes, I better hoard some gasoline. Don't plant the seed in their minds. But
who's hoarding gasoline? What storage facilities do gasoline hoarders have at their home?
Plastic containers from their basement, like those big Rubbermaid containers. That's what people are filling up.
Really? Are people really doing this, or did one person do it and now we've decided it's a thing?
Did you not see the photography from all of these gas stations all over the East Coast in the last few days? They're definitely doing it.
So
I mean, most of them are using
gas cans, but
once you have a Rubbermaid container full of gas, how do you get it into your car? I mean, what?
It's a huge pain in the ass.
I've never tried to siphon gas, but from what I understand, it's really awful.
It is.
Well, at least now we know one thing Craig hasn't done when we're not watching.
I think it's a distraction by the toilet paper hoarders who are trying to divert attention from the toilet paper.
So you're going to mention toilet paper, and now I have to do my whole thing because the whole toilet paper hoarding thing really annoys me. Because here's why: were people really hoarding toilet paper, or think about it. Let's say my household has 3 people. We used to spend 10 hours a day somewhere else. Obviously, we're home all the time. So our toilet paper usage as a household, that's going to be like quadruple. I mean, so are we hoarding toilet paper, or has the consumption in home simply gone up to an extent where we have to purchase more toilet paper than we did before? Anyway, I think that's a whole one of those things we're going to look back on if anyone ever wants to unpack it and say it was not a thing that happened, which is why I'm questioning the gas.
Okay, can I bring up something about the pipeline though? This is another thing that I saw last night when I was kind of searching for lunacy, was people complaining that the ransom never should have been paid, and implying that it was somehow paid by the government, and it was not paid by the government. It was paid by a private company, Colonial Pipeline Company, which I understand is owned by the Koch family. But I got that via social media. It's not been verified. But and then this idea that we have to somehow seek out these hackers and, bomb them back to the Stone Age or something like that. It's like, hey, you're going to hit a few of Donald Trump's friends if you do that. So I don't know if we're going to want to try that stuff right now. But
well, for me, it's like, hey, you just learned a valuable lesson in cybersecurity.
Yeah,
get on that, take care of that. And it also is a great argument for infrastructure spending so we can secure these types of things. That's what infrastructure spending would
from
do.
What I understand, some expert I heard on NPR said this was a very garden variety hack, and it took advantage of an appalling weakness in their cybersecurity. They probably had the password is probably like, password
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
it's such an expensive task to upgrade your cybersecurity that so many companies, there are so many out there that have vulnerable systems because they don't want to deal with it because they figure it's never going to happen to them. And when it happens, then they're forced to do it. And I think companies need to be more aggressive about
how is it
that
expensive to do that? I mean,
it's a lot of, I think it's a lot of money to,
I bet it's less than $5 million.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
Also, they were losing probably $5 million every half an hour when this pipeline was shut down. I mean, they're supplying half the East Coast with gasoline.
It's like negotiating with terrorists. I mean, essentially, that's what they just did. But
so can we say the same thing about like Enbridge right now in Line 5? Because we are kind of in a negotiating with terrorist situation right now. They are operating illegally, if I'm not mistaken, as of today.
They are. I have mixed feelings about Enbridge, but I'm not going to get into it right now. So,
the Kalamazoo River spill is something that still is not completely resolved this many years later. And
I mean, this is
there
not
were
a
bad
good
players
company,
there.
I don't think. Yeah.
No, but they're Canadians. Canadians are nice. All right, everybody. Hang on for just a second.
And now it's time for Deadline Detroit's nominees for Schmuck of the Week.
So I've got a rant that I'm going to hold off till the end here. So who wants to go first in their nominee today? Well, who's got the music playing in the background?
I don't know. That might have been mine. I can go first. I'm kind of lukewarm on it, and what I can say is he's been a fan of the Schmuck of the Week several times, but I just don't think it's enough of him. Because remember one time when I first did the show, maybe a couple of years back or a year and a half back, and I said Donald Trump, and you said, look, you can do Donald Trump, but it's the guy that's understood to be the guy who's actually going to give the award to the Schmuck of the Week because
lifetime achievement.
So I think this guy is going to take over the new Schmuck of the Week image of Donald Trump because he's still an elected official. Unfortunately, is Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
He's just number one, I absolutely don't respect him. He's a guy that when they were running for office, I'm willing to let bygones be bygones, but somebody who talks about me in a way and talks about my wife, talks about my father in a way so venomous and then I'm going to pander up to him. I have absolutely no respect for that guy. But even beyond that, he's doubling down now in this whole let's call it McCarthyism. You know what I'm saying? But from the right side. You know what I'm saying? It's coming from the right, but it's
that's where that came from too.
And it's kind of like that whole imprimatur of hysteria that's going on. And, so he gets into this, he's never going to win this. Seth Rogen the other night on Steve Colbert, and I love Steve Colbert because, he's kind of a true conservative, he's a guy that is, a Republican, or I don't even know if he talks about him being a Republican anymore, but, that's what I used to understood what a Republican was, is a guy like him. And, he's on his show the other night and he's dogging out, Seth Rogen's dogging out Ted Cruz. And, and Ted Cruz fires back. You can never win with a comedian. How's he going to win? So, that's what I enjoy. Hollywood has kind of saved us in a lot of ways. And, also, they've become more conscious about where we are and what they need to do as far as with their money and with their influence. But, this guy's, he's scum of the earth.
Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is, all you need to know about Ted Cruz is, imagine Kevin Bacon in Animal House getting paddled and saying, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" That is Ted Cruz.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly what it is. "Oh, my wife's ugly. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Give me another."
My dad
Your
killed
dad killed JFK. Thank you, sir. I have another. So that's basically Ted Cruz. And I think that's a good one. Nancy Derringer.
I have two because this panel often chooses the same, but I'm going to go with my number one choice, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Thank you. I wanted to bring her up.
Okay, who has gone off the rails once again, and this goes back to I want to loop around and tie this to my objection to James Craig as governor of Michigan. He's not qualified for that job. Running a large city police department is, an impressive feat, but it is not the same as being an executive in over an entire state government, particularly a state the size of this. We're not Vermont. And what Marjorie Taylor Greene is she's kind of like James Craig. I would also put Kristen Sinema, the Democrat from Arizona, in this thing, in that she has no interest in policy. She has no interest in being a policymaker. What she's interested in is making a name for herself, is building her brand, is all this other stuff. And this year, I believe, or this week, I believe she screamed at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, called her a socialist, told her to take off the diaper.
Terrorist sympathizer.
Yeah, i.e. her mask, et cetera, et cetera. And, this is what happened when we stripped her of her committee assignments.
And called her part of the jihad squad, too.
Right, exactly. She, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, a few others, they exist for one reason, which is to walk around the Capitol with their staff, trailing them with a video, with the iPhone on video settings, ranting about something which they're going to post on their social and blow it up and all this other stuff. And I'm just
I thought she was going to try to fight her.
Well, right, exactly. She's, I go to CrossFit 3 times a week.
It was an embarrassing spectacle, and she's likely to face some sanctions from this. The sergeant at arms apparently is going to have some sort of conversation, and her own party is basically telling her to tone it down.
She ought to be
but challenge. If we're in Singapore, maybe that could happen.
But here's where I get angry about Democrats. If you don't do something about this crazy lunatic, when you have the power and we don't do it, if nothing else, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a Republican, right? But I have people that I support that are Republican candidates. I support Pete Lucido out in Macomb County. As crazy as Pete is, I think that Pete is a good prosecutor. You know what I'm saying? Would he make a good governor? I told Pete, it hurts my heart how he's going after my friend, my governor, and stuff like that.
He's fishing for her. He's fishing.
But the thing about it is, what I don't like about the Democratic Party is if she's absolutely wrong in what she did, and now you're gonna say you're gonna do something, do it.
Yeah,
absolutely do it. And if nothing else, Republicans have been doing it even though they're wrong. So,
all right, Nancy, who was your second?
Bob Baffert, the trainer of American Spirit,
who is not running in the Preakness.
When his horse, blew the
cancel culture.
was a victim of cancel culture.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And it cracks me up that the very people bitching about cancel culture just canceled Liz Cheney.
Exactly.
All right, Nancy Kaffer.
I don't like to call people a schmuck.
I know you don't.
I have a reverse schmuck of the week for you.
Okay.
There is a guy who works
always on the sunny side of the street. I see.
Who works for Media Matters, which is a progressive media watchdog organization, and his name is Matt Gertz. Gertz. Apparently every time Matt Gaetz makes the news, poor Matt Gertz's Twitter feed just becomes a terrible quagmire of people just calling him the worst names imaginable. And then, he patiently points out that his bio actually says not the congressman. And, people are apparently unable to distinguish between an ER and a EA or AE. And so this is my reverse schmuck of the week. This man is not a schmuck. He seems to be a very credible, ethical journalist who seems to be, from his Twitter feed, he's married to Alyssa Rosenberg, another journalist. I have no idea. I'm sure they have a lovely family. And then this poor guy's Twitter feed just becomes hot garbage every time. unrelated person, Matt Gaetz, becomes news. So there, have sympathy and feel kind thoughts towards this poor man.
That's a good one.
Well, very good.
I had two. I think we can do without Nancy.
I think that's fine. I kind of like Nancy's way of doing things. That's good. We have to do a shout out when people do good things or unintentionally victimized by idiots. Allan Lengel.
We sort of mentioned him a little bit, but I'm going to go with Congressman Andrew Clyde from Georgia, who was talking about the videos. And he says, if you didn't know the TV footage was a video from January 6th, you'd think it was a normal tourist visit. I mean, can you be a bigger schmuck than that?
No, no, you can't. And I mean, like I said, the whitewashing of what happened on January 6th is something that cannot be allowed to happen.
No.
And now apparently, I just read this in the Post about 3 minutes ago. They've reached a deal on the parameters for the investigation in Congress into what happened on the 6th. So we might actually see some testimony in this pretty soon, which would be good.
Maybe we'll see some Congress members get indicted.
Yeah,
now you see why I wanted to go first with Ted Cruz. Some of the stuff that you guys have presented has been awesome, though.
Well,
so many schmucks out there.
I'm going back with it to an oldie but a goodie. Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson this week has decided that he is going to be the purveyor of all factual information about vaccines. And he has been going on this anti-vaxxer crusade, buying into conspiracy theories, and basically putting out complete and total bullshit for the last few days on his program about the vaccines. The latest thing that he did was he talked about this number of people who have died after getting the vaccine. And 4,000 people apparently have died who have been vaccinated. But what he does not explain to people is that their deaths had nothing to do with getting the vaccine. These are people that just died of natural causes because the first people that got vaccinated were, guess who? Senior citizens who tend to die at a larger rate than the rest of us in this country. And so they are not correlated in any way. Causation does not equal correlation. Isn't that the thing that they teach you in logic class? But here's the thing. He has done this. And then when people call him out for it and saying, you're putting out a bunch of crap, his response is always, hey, I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
To which I suggest, bullshit. The rest of the week, besides when I do this, actually interview people who know more about things than I do to get information about important subjects, whether it's vaccines, whether it's crime, whether it's business, politics, whatever. We bring on guests to a program that I host so that you get factual information about what is going on. He has a giant audience, and he has an hour every single night in which he could do the exact same thing. Bring on actual guests with actual knowledge to tell him that he's full of shit, or at least straighten it out so the audience is getting factual information. Your job, Tucker, is not just to quote unquote ask questions. It's to try to get answers to questions. Factual, actual answers. You, sir, are the biggest media whore on the planet today. And the sooner your show is gone, the better off America is going to be.
When you go on these rants, did you ever watch as a child Green Acres? Or were you
I did watch Green Acres, Mr.
Remember whenever Oliver would
Share.
wind up and he would give
I
a little
swear.
speech. He would give a little speech about like the good people of the earth and all that.
Yes.
And this little piccolo would begin to play in the background, this kind of this sort of patriotic tune. It's like, I want one of those for when you go on these rants.
Well,
we need a different tune though.
The dude is dangerous. He's dangerous.
No Green Acres love here. Sorry.
He's a dangerous individual. And I have actual, friends and relatives who are, I thought, pretty smart people who are actually watching this crap and gobbling it up every single night.
He's the most popular guy on
the abuse of the VAERS database, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, is something that caught on in like the last couple of weeks. I saw this big thing in a fringe publication that I occasionally drop in on, and it's the same thing. It's like it's there for just anybody to report a vaccine side effect, right? So it's like you can throw in your sore arm if you want, and it's a way for the CDC and other health organizations to kind of track these things. But it's entirely you need no medical background to do it, and like you said, a lot of people when you're 99 years old and you get the shot and you croak the next day, it doesn't mean the shot killed you. It just means being 99.
Well, and the CDC does investigate these things, and they have said that there's no correlation between the vaccines and these people's deaths. I mean, it's just, somebody died in a car accident, but they were vaccinated. They're going to show up in that thing.
But the misuse of that registry has, there's a provenance for that. It's the vaccines cause autism.
Absolutely.
And so that's, it's an unfortunate that something that's part of a responsible part of tracking.
But Tucker knows better.
Misuse like that.
I thought the shot would protect you from everything, like car crashes, cancer, all that, and it has. I'm freaked out about that.
I'm going to start smoking 3 packs a day because now I can't get lung cancer.
I thought it would protect you from idiocracy. Did you ever see that movie with?
It's one of my favorites.
Seen that movie.
Oh my God! It's almost like Trump is like Terry Crews. Remember Terry Crews was sitting on top of that bus. And he's
President Camacho
driving the bus up, and that was the motorcade. This is,
Whenever I think of that movie, I always think of, damn it, I'm pregnant again. So.
I don't know. I think that character in the movie, though, turned out to be sort of kind-hearted, didn't he? Which is, a substantial deviation from
absolutely.
No, it's what plants crave.
That's right. It's what plants crave. Coffee.
Yeah.
It's what this guy craves. So I'm going to end the show so I can get some more of that, like I need it right now, right? I would like to thank everybody for being here. Nancy Kaffer from the Detroit Free Press. We always appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much. And we appreciate your kind-hearted nature and not wanting to be mean to people. That's a nice thing you bring to the table.
We'll shake that out of you.
I prefer to, I feel like when you call someone a schmuck or something like that, you're like, I'd rather describe like this is. I think this person is wrong-headed and poorly. I don't know.
I think I laid out a pretty solid case for Tucker.
I do. I like to piss people off on purpose.
It's not like we're sending them embossed certificates either. This is one little podcast. And,
look, I'm not judging anyone else.
Being the key word.
It's a little personal quirk of mine. I certainly, as I'm sure you've noticed, have no problem piling on after you guys call someone a schmuck.
Well, and that's fine. And like I said, but at least there's a little bit of sweetness on this program every once in a while.
It's good to know you're not behind our backs calling us schmucks.
There you go. Well, we have no idea what happens when the cameras go off. But Todd Perkins, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Always appreciate you being here.
We still got to get together.
Yep, we're going to do it soon. Well, we can because we're all vaccinated. We can do whatever the hell we want.
Next week it's going to be warm. So
yes, very well. It's warm out today, as a matter of fact. Nancy Derringer and Allan Lengel. We will see you next week. We always appreciate you being here. Thanks to Michael Lucido for engineering this broadcast today. Thanks to Lynette's Shrimp House in Highland Park. It is on the east side of the street, just north of the Davison. You can see it. It's right there. Check it out. Get some Lynette's. Awesome food. And it is the weekend. So Friday night, surprise the kids with some yummy shrimp. It's a good thing. They would love that. They would love that if you did that. And thanks to Lynette's for sponsoring this program and Deadline Detroit. Don't forget DeadlineDetroit.com for all your news needs. Consider a membership. Just $3 a month. DeadlineDetroit.com/membership. It's easy to do. We appreciate it. And we will see you next week. And Allan, we don't have to say this much longer.
All right. Stay home safely.
The Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible in part by Lynette's Shrimp House, located in Highland Park. It's Metro Detroit's premier destination, serving juicy fried shrimp, fish, and wings, alongside soul food sides and new additions to the menu like turkey tacos and desserts. Located at 13548 Woodward in Highland Park, just north of the Davison, Lynette's is open for takeaway noon to 8 Tuesday and Thursday, noon to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and noon to 5 p.m. on Sunday. Call now, get some Lynette's.